Welcome to Be Now for October the 10th, 2023. Joining me is Faz. We don't have a big intro like we normally do. We just thought we'd go right into it because we do have limited time on this broadcast. So we're going to try and jump around and cover a few topics. First one up, or the first thing up is Faz. How's it going today?
I'm very busy, Don. Thanksgiving is still not done in my household. I just rushed back from the airport. Air Canada canceled my daughter's flight till like 11 tonight, and she called, and surprisingly, they were able to book her on an earlier flight. So it was just I almost missed the show, Don.
Air Canada is the worst. You know that? Like I will never travel Air Canada again if I have to. There's no way. They've delayed my flights every time I've booked with them, and it's ridiculous. It's like every time, it's like they never leave on time.
A little tidbit. So if they reschedule your flight for more than 4 hours, I think they're obligated to rebook you on a new flight for free. So my wife was able to get my daughter rebooked on a 7:00 flight, no problem. So she's actually going to get to Vancouver earlier.
Yeah, but if there's availability, if there's no availability, then you're out of luck.
Yeah. Either go with the flight they've booked you on, or
exactly. They delayed me more than 4 hours when I was going over to Europe, and it's like, okay, that's the only flight that's booked, so you can't book an earlier flight.
It gets worse and worse. Like the thought of flying for everybody is I don't think anybody enjoys flying anymore. Back in the day, Don, I remember people used to dress up in my family, anyways.
Well, number one, back in the day, you actually had an opportunity to sit in a seat that was the size of a seat. Now they're getting smaller and smaller.
Maybe you've gotten started
on the washrooms. The washrooms are the worst. It's like they're getting smaller and smaller. Pretty soon, I'm going to be having like a little urine bottle and stuff like that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, so anyways, it was Thanksgiving, Don, but we all know what happened in the Middle East over the weekend, and that put I think a damper on everybody's Thanksgiving, because we're all thinking about it. At least I was. I'm old enough. I don't know, our viewers, if you're old enough to have tracked what's going on in the Middle East over the last how many decades.
Yeah.
But it's a terrible situation. Whenever a civilian gets killed intentionally, like, there's no excuse for it, right?
I mean, you're going to have, as they say, collateral damage. But in this case, it's basically Hamas, which is classified as a terrorist organization, doing a raid from Gaza into, the kibbutzes and across the border into Israel. It's just like it's messy, it's stupid, and I don't know what Hamas was thinking, because you knew Israel was going to retaliate with massive force, which they are doing right now. It's just a situation that, ever since I've been alive. I mean, I remember the 1967, the 6-Day War. I remember after that in the 70s, with Nasser, and I mean, this situation has been going on for as long as I live. Forget about people who are older than me, or generations before. It just seems to be something that is forever and ever, right? Going back to biblical times. It's crazy.
And thousands of people, innocent civilians, kids, moms are gonna die or have died, and it's this cycle we go through. And I don't want to put blame on any one side, because what's the point of that?
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, that's what's happening. Is people are choosing sides. Obviously, if you have family members in Israel, if you're Jewish, I can understand which side you're going to choose. But the reaction from the Israeli government, we all know what they're going to do.
Oh yeah.
But their full-fledged support by the international community is something the Muslim community views as hypocritical. And I think that's why you're seeing kind of these protests with the Palestinian flags. I see in the news media people referring to this as Hamas protests or supporters of Hamas. And I'm, 100% sure there are supporters of Hamas in these groups. But I think by and large, these are just people from Palestine or the Middle East who don't want to see this conflict continue or more people die, even though they will. And they're polarized, and they're going to choose, their side. Me being a Muslim, obviously, I'll have a bias as well, right? But my bias, after seeing this go on over and over again, yeah, we get a couple of years here of peace, or at least peace from our perspective, right? I'm sure, people in the region are still suffering because it's not being covered in the news, especially in Palestine. Um, it's just, I blame all the world leaders, the current ones, the one from the past. And you and I are old enough now, Don, to know the people making these decisions are our age or older or young. They're not. It's just instinctual decisions they're made. They're not. It's revenge. It's hate. And those are the people that, when you make decisions in times like this, it's the wrong decision, right?
Yeah,
I
I
would
don't
love
think
for a
that.
leader to stand up and say, we need to stop this now and be passionate about it and make phone calls to the other leaders. And they all get together and say, this needs to stop now. But what we're seeing is polarization.
Well, the only time that basically I saw there was an opportunity to create a Palestinian state, which Israel does not say that there should be no Palestinian state. They just say within the certain borders that are parameters, they don't agree with the borders that are drawn by the international community. So, I mean, regardless of the geopolitics and everything else that goes with it, I don't think people on average would say, I don't think the Palestine should have their own state. I think most people in a reasonable amount would say yes, they actually consider that having a state that is called Palestine. And I think Yasser Arafat was closest to actually getting that done when Jimmy Carter was president, and the talks were going on in regards to that. But
But that was like 40 years ago, Jimmy.
exactly, like it fell apart. Yasser Arafat was killed. Blah 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 blah. We go on and on. But that's geopolitics in the Middle East that seems to go on forever. What the problem is here is now, if you have those conflicts and those things leaking back into Canada and North America, which they seem to be on a regular basis, and it's not good because you have different communities that are affected by this, right? I mean, we don't want to see vandalism of synagogues or mosques, from either side. That makes no sense whatsoever.
But the polarization we're seeing, especially from our political leaders here in Canada, they're all choosing Israel's side, justifiably so, for what happened on the weekend. But what I would love for any Canadian leader to do is stand up and say, we need to stop this. We need to get locally here in Canada, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Middle Eastern community, the Palestinian community together. Let us try to hash out a plan. Let all other countries the Western countries who have large immigrant populations to be the leaders in this now, because locally it's about hate, right? If I was Jewish and one of my kids was killed at this music fest, I would hate the person that did that to my child, right? Similarly, on the other side, if Israel drops a bomb in an apartment building and my child gets killed, I would hate the Israeli government.
Well, exactly. But it's like someone said, I forget who it was, but could have been Muhammad Gandhi. An eye for an eye only makes the world blind, right? So, you're going from one end of the spectrum back and forth, and it just seems to be an ongoing eye for an eye in that region that seems to be propped up by, people say, well, it's propped up by the United States, but the other governments of Jordan are propped up by Russia as well. So it's an ugly situation. But what you don't want to see is you don't want to have it leak over to Canada, where you have protests and people are actually in support of Hamas, which is a ridiculous scenario. And the leaders have to all come out and make sure that this doesn't happen, because you don't want to see stuff like that in Brampton. You don't want to see it in Peel, and you don't want to see it in Toronto, right? It's a ridiculous scenario.
But I don't see anything that says to me we're not going to see this continue in Brampton or the GTA. We're going to have incidents of people taking action against other people, and it's just wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong, and it's like, the thing is, if you have hate laws, which are in the books in Canada, and you have an organization like Hamas, or I don't care, whatever, a terrorist organization, you're holding a rally, that's a hate rally, right? I mean,
yeah, but Don, that's the way it's being portrayed. I saw 15,000 people show up in Mount Lassman Square supporting Israel, that no problem with that, right?
Well,
Obviously,
Israel's not
you show
deemed a
support,
terrorist state.
right? But the people showing up at these other ones are they're waving Palestinian flags. They're not Hamas. There might be people, Hamas supporters in them, but
Right.
how can you ban it? Because now you're clearly, the politicians have all chosen a side. Now you're going to say, well, the people who have relatives that's in Palestine, oh, you can't go and gather or congregate. What I would like to see is people from the communities get together and lower the temperature locally, and then figure out how to lower the temperature in the Middle East, because this could explode, Don. This could get much bigger than
Well,
it.
absolutely, because you know and I know. I mean, like I said, I was alive in 1967, the Six-Day War, and everything else that followed in the 70s and everything else. At that time, a lot of people thought we were heading to World War III when Russia was supplying tanks to Nasser, and you know, all the Israelis basically went all the way to the Sinai, through the Sinai right into the Red Sea. I mean, you know, people thought that was the time. This is escalating already. I mean, you know, Netanyahu, the president of Israel, he's not going to take it lightly, and he hasn't shown it lightly. And the people of Gaza are going to suffer. And you know, it's a situation that, like we said before from the outset, it's a terrible situation. Can it continue? It seems to be continuing for 2,000 years, but in
Well,
regards to
I don't
where
know
we
about that.
are,
I don't know about 2,000 years, Don. I think since World War II,
well, after World War II, but even before then, I mean, that there was Jews, Christians, there was Arabs in that territory, all the way back to Egyptian times, right? It's 2,000 years old, that entire territory that keeps changing.
yeah.
I mean, the Romans raised Jerusalem in 70 AD, and basically the Jews were in Jerusalem. It was a Jewish state.
I think, we are more educated now. More of us are more educated. We are not these uneducated people from the last 2,000 years who fought for land because of land's sake. It's frustrating, Don, to call yourself a human being, but then see the savagery on both sides, right?
Yeah.
I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not blaming
Well,
anybody,
nobody likes
because,
to
as you
see
said,
that.
this is an ongoing thing.
Yeah. And that's why,
What I'm really disappointed in is in the leadership, who are taking sides rather than showing leadership and trying to, we elect these people to solve our problems, not to pick sides and escalate problems. Solve it.
Yeah. Well, it's easier said than done, but what I'm looking for is basically,
Well, don't be a politician. Don't run.
no.
Right? Why is Doug Ford so adamantly supporting Israel? Where it's political, right? Because he wants the stuff off the green belt attention, right? Doug Ford, and I'll say it right here, is an ignorant person who knows nothing about Middle East, and he's inflaming the situation.
Yes, there's a lot of politicians that do that, including from the Conservative Party as well. I mean, they seem to be on the federal level flaming the fans.
Well, you mean, Doug Ford is conservative. I'm
No,
not saying
I'm talking about the federal level, right, as well.
right, but also the liberals as well. It's
Yeah.
like solve the problem. Don't inflame it. Don't just give platitudes. Right. This side is wrong. This side stand up, and like Canada is a peacemaking country. Make peace.
Well, the thing is, that situation is going to take a lot more than what Canada can offer. And I'm just basically looking in here, my introspective into Canada and Brampton and in Peel region where we live, which we're very lucky to live compared to other parts of the world. If you travel, you know. But at the same time, as you said before, politicians should be more vocal in regards to trying to bring down the temperature, the boiling point. Because you and I know there's going to be, probably things of, attack from both sides. It's not going to, the more it escalates over there, it could escalate over here at the same time. So we need leadership, not only for that area, but also for this area as well and where we live. Right.
Yeah. And, as you know, on the weekend was Brampton recognized Islamic Heritage Month,
Yep.
which timing on that was, obviously there's out of everybody's control. but the mayor said we value diversity in Brampton. I know we don't have a large Jewish community, but if we did, I don't even know if we have a Jewish Heritage Month, right? We do have a large Muslim community in Brampton, but me being a Muslim, for anybody who's Jewish who's watching us now, from the bottom of my heart, and I don't feel I should be the one that has to do this, but I apologize for what happened on the weekend. It's not in the heart of human beings to think in any way that is justified. But my heart also pains for what's going to happen,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And what's going to
100%.
happen again if leaders don't stand up
Yeah.
and try to bring peace to the situation.
Yeah, and that's that's the sorry state of it, but it's going on. It's been going on for that long. But anyway, we're not going to solve the geopolitical problems of the world at this point in time. I just want to make sure that, like, it doesn't escalate in this regard, and politicians should be making sure that they understand and go through the whole scenario and say, we don't want it escalating in our backyard. In regards to this, it's already escalated over there. It's out of your control at this point in time. But over here, the escalation there's got to be a lid put onto it right here. And that's what the politicians here have to do, because they have no control of what Netanyahu is going to do and what Hamas is going to do over there in Israel. And
100%. 100% done.
So
and thank you for letting me choose the topic for today. And
that's fine.
I was very silent on the weekend because I see lots of people saying lots of things. I tried to do because I haven't followed the situation there, because nothing has happened recently other than, the occasional thing. And maybe this is why Hamas did what they did. They want some attention. It's a terrible reason and a terrible tactic to go and kill innocent lives and take hostages. And some of the other things that I'm hearing are barbaric, right? If it's true what I'm hearing. But thank you for letting me talk about this. And to the general community, you might be wondering, why are we talking about this in Brand? Because it's affecting people, right?
Well, yeah, it affects people. I mean, we're not immune to it. And my background heritage is Scottish. The English did a lot of bad things to the Scots. Do I hate the English? Nah, I don't care, right? I don't carry it for 2,000 years. And I think at this point in time, you've got to understand that, the situation has got to be rectified to some degree. Yes, The Palestinians need a place to live. Figure it out. Right?
But at the same time, Don, I am also a hypocrite, because I'm living in Canada on land that was taken away by the original people here, right?
Yeah.
And there's not enough of those people left to stand up. So we all have to come together and figure out a better way forward. Fighting for land by killing people makes no sense.
No, and at the same time, it doesn't make any sense for hatred between ethnic diversities and everything else. We're all human, right? So that's the whole basis. That's why I don't like religion, Faz. I've told you before, to me, religion is one of the big things that is separating people rather than bringing them together. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, we're going to go to the next topic. We're going to talk about, it's interesting. I talked to someone over the weekend, and we were talking about, cold and flu season is coming up right now. I just got back from Paris about a week ago, and one of the big things that they were talking about was the rise in COVID cases and what they are doing. I see the Toronto Board of Health. They were coming out and saying they were doing a campaign, talk about COVID shots coming up, because it's that time of the year right now, and people are susceptible. Older people are susceptible. You need a booster, and so on and so forth. I haven't heard peep from Peel Regional Health. Have you?
No, and Dr. Lowe's no longer there, so
No.
I'm not even sure who replaced Dr. Lowe. But to me, the purpose of public health is public information,
Right.
letting people know where, when, how, why, what's coming up, how to prepare.
Yep.
They have a big budget, and I hear nothing out of Peel Public Health.
I haven't heard anything from them since Dr. Lowe left. I haven't heard anything in regards to, upcoming COVID, the flu season, what to do. I haven't heard anything about them. We talked about Peel Memorial the urgent care was closed. I mean, where's Peel Public Health, and where are the officials that we pay a lot of money for? Like you said, their budget is huge.
Yeah.
I don't see where they're coming out. I don't even know who's in charge there anymore. Dr. Lowe left, as you said. That was just after the pandemic, but I haven't heard peep from these guys. Like,
We used to get like sometimes multiple updates in a day, and they just went completely silent. And that is the problem with public health: is you have to maintain communication with people,
well,
because when you need to communicate, you
got to
have
be
to
proactive. You
reach
can't wait
people.
till you've got a full blown COVID system again, and your emergency wards are all backed up, and you got flu season and cold season along with it, and then you want to come out with a strategy. Is it like now is the time to be out here saying? And I noticed that from a lot of the European countries, they were doing that. France was doing it. Germany was doing it. They were coming out and saying, we're seeing a rise. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah. I think people are getting sicker just from seeing their people. We had a function, and there were a few people that were sick or either didn't come. I know of other functions where I'm hearing people are getting sick. Right? It could be the flu. It could just be seasonal. Whatever. It could be allergies. Who knows? But at least from a public health perspective, let us know. Is it anything on the rise?
Well, over in
wearing
Europe when I
masks?
left, they were saying the COVID cases were rising, and that's why they were coming up with this campaign. If they're rising over there, there's got to be some sort of statistics over here. We're not immune to that. We have travel and everything else that came with it. So, not everyone, 100% of the population has got their COVID booster and everything else coming up. But at the same time, this is a time when you would hear about go get your flu shot and go get your update on your COVID. I haven't heard anything, and I just it's remarkable to me that at this time of the year, which is a critical time for young people and older people, we're not like Danielle Smith. Our immune systems are not perfect. There are people that are going to need the shots. It would be a good time for Peel Public Health to come out with some sort of strategy and say, this is what we're doing. Toronto Board of Health is doing it right now. I just like I said, what is our do we have a lead doctor? They're missing an
Well, and even before the pandemic, I was highly critical of Peel Public Health because Toronto has their own Twitter account. And, I'm not a fan of Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now. But it's a direct source of communication. Peel Public Health, for 1.5 million, whatever we have in Peel, they don't have a direct line of communication. They'll use Peel Region Twitter account.
Yeah.
You need to have your own public health account for such a large population.
Well, we mentioned that during the pandemic because that was one of the big things that, we were trying to get information, and it was like, Dr. Lowe was doing his press conferences and so on and so forth on a weekly basis. But at the same time, you're trying to get information out to the general public, right? Not everyone's tuned into the mayor's broadcast and his once a week thing of what he's talking about, what's going on. This is something that you don't have a newspaper anymore. In not that we had one before with the Brampton Guardian. Mississauga
Well, in
News,
all of Peel, we don't have
exactly.
Any, right?
So
Mississauga News, Brampton Guardian, same thing.
The idea of not having a Twitter account and just relying on that is a ridiculous scenario. I mean, we're talking about, as you said, what happens if there's another outbreak. I mean, to me, it's unconscionable that they don't have at least 5 or 6 different avenues of communication to be able to get out there, and there's no spokesperson and nobody's saying anything.
And
don't tell me everything is perfect out there.
Because if it is, why do we have such a big budget for
exactly? That's the other thing.
There was talk of consolidating some of these public health units, and Peel region is looking at breaking up. What's going to happen with public health, right? I think by not communicating, you're giving ammunition to the politicians to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my first thing. It's like, okay, well, why do we need you guys? We never hear from you.
Yeah.
Right. And if
I'm sure they do stuff day to day, I just don't know what it is.
I don't know either, but at the same time, it's like communication is important, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. Communication has to be there because people want to know, just the simple things of, okay, well, why are you going to an emergency ward? what to go for an emergency ward for. Just simple things. At this time of the year, people are they'll get a cold or a flu, blah, 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 and they'll run to the emergency ward. Well, guess what's going to happen to the emergency ward? It's going to be overwhelmed again. Right? Yeah. Just information to tell people.
And I do think Osler Public Health, William Osler Health System did say now if you go into the hospitals, you do have to wear a mask, right? Did they just get that policy?
I saw the press release, but I didn't see any sort of information across social media once again.
Well, they probably know they're going to be attacked by the anti-vax crowd, right? And that's not a reason not to communicate.
Yeah, who cares? What, you're afraid to do communications now because you're worried about some nut anti-vaxxers? Like, come on, right?
Yeah, anyway. And at this point, we're not doing lockdowns. So if you don't want to get your vaccine, don't get your vaccine. But it doesn't mean the 90% of us who got the vaccines don't need to know, right? I'm not fully vaxxed. Should I be fully vaxxed? When's the best time to get it? I know there's a new vaccine coming out. Let alone seniors and students and families who don't have time to watch the news.
Well, exactly. That's the whole point of the exercise. So those two topics basically we wanted to cover today, which we're pretty close to ending the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Button Pusher?
No. I hope everybody has a good week. I hope the week is better in the world. But there's also chaos going on in the U.S. in terms of the Speaker of their House, and it's so political over there. Even some of the Republican candidates, some of the things that are coming out of their mouth, it's just escalating the situation. So I do hope everybody has a good week. I hope it's a better week in the Middle East. And reach out to us about show ideas. I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks, by the way, Don. I told you this, right? Later in the year. So we do need somebody to fill in my spot. So we can make phone calls and get somebody, or we can nominate somebody.
We can nominate.
Yeah. I can think of 3 people to fill in the 3 weeks. So maybe we'll do that. Yeah.
Well, we'll
they're all better looking than me, Don. So
we'll see which 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, we'll call it there. And like you said, hopefully things, I don't see it, getting any better in the Middle East anytime soon. But just if you have family and friends or whatever over there, like, good luck. Make sure that everybody stays safe. And over here, just make sure that, there's no reason to inflame the tensions over here. They're already pretty high over there, and there's no need to bring that here.
Yeah, reach out. If you're on social media, rage posting, maybe stop it.
Yeah.
Let's try to bring peace to the world as whatever we can do as an individual.
Anyway, on that note, I will leave you. Thank you for joining us all out there. If you got any questions, you want show ideas, or as you say, Faz is looking for, he's going to be gone. We're looking for a co-host. So
is it a paid position, Don? Do we?
Yeah, you get about, what do I pay you for this?
Oh, that's a lot. It's a lot, Don.
Just about as much as I get.
Yeah. Same as you.
Exactly. Anyway, we will see you next Tuesday. Like I said, if you got any show ideas, you got any comments, you can always email us. You have our email, and we always look forward to hearing comments and general ideas. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.